Good morning and welcome to First UU. My name is Neil Richardson, and today I am wearing my Lazy Iron Man shirt to get in the mood for the new year. It's a reminder that you can do an Ironman in the course of a whole month. It doesn't have to be in 2 hours. So let us begin by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Neoconska people, known sometimes by the name of Osage. The descendants of the people who were forcibly removed from this land make up the Osage Nation. We acknowledge their continued struggle for justice. The chalice lighter in the sanctuary today is Lynn, and the chalice lighting words are by Reverend Dr. David Breeden. We tender this flame, opening the book, turning to a page yet to be written, opening a story yet to be told. May we fill this fresh page wisely, as we write a new story into beginning. May we together inscribe the page with hope.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
The theme for the month of January is living love through the practice of story. One of the topics that came up when we were looking through this month's Soul Matters guide was rewriting our past stories to have a better future. When I heard that topic, I got pretty excited because it reminded me a lot of how stories have played a part in my life growing up. One of my favorite ways to share stories from my past is to make them exciting, and our family catchphrase growing up was that Richardson is the name and exaggeration is the game. For me, it started with my great-grandma on my dad's side, Nina Halls Braithwaite, and my grandfather on my mother's side, Calvin Jackson. Grandma B loved to write stories and poems and had a collection of them called Grandma B's Bonnet. It was always a joy to hear fun stories about the skunk that sprayed the family during her childhood years, or to reflect on her kindness about how she lived through the Spanish flu caring for her neighbors. But my favorite memory of Grandma B was her poems. When she was 65, she got a new typewriter and wrote one of my favorite poems, Old Man Sittin' 'Neath a Tree, Picking his nose as dumb as could be. What is it, old man, you think as you sit? Maybe you should have some stockings to knit. Go home to your parlor and sweep out your dirt. Take a warm bath and put on a clean shirt. Forget that lumbago and get on your toes, because there's more to be done than just picking your nose. I thought that was appropriate for New Year's. Grandpa Jackson was a colonel in the Air Force, and later in life, he and Grandma sent a monthly newsletter called the Jackson Family Flyer. In addition to the news of the month, he would occasionally tell stories of his adventures in military and civilian service. I remember hearing how he survived an incredible helicopter crash in a watermelon field and ate the watermelons afterwards, or how he once had an appendix rupture, and when the hospital ran out of gauze and saline, they went to the janitor's closet and finished cleaning the infection with a bottle of bleach. When I asked to lead the service this week, I reached out to my parents to see if they had any advice about how reframing the past could lead to a better future, and they both gave me some great advice. My mom said that Grandpa Jackson would always try to encourage us when things went wrong with the phrase, crisis plus time equals laughter. She said no matter how bad things get, given enough time passing and using experience and perspective, eventually you'll be laughing about it someday in the future. My dad shared how important perspective can be by reminding me of the first time he got a sore throat and had to miss school. He was so upset about being uncomfortable that after 2 hours of misery, he cried, "Well, how long is this supposed to last?" My grandma Richardson just laughed and said it wouldn't be so bad once you get some rest and recuperation. My dad reminded me that sometimes the situation seems so much worse when you're in the middle of it, but eventually it becomes a funny story to tell your kids and grandkids when they experience the same thing. One of my favorite storytelling formats is through movies and movie quotes. And in the 2003 movie Big Fish, directed by Tim Burton, William Bloom is frustrated by his father's habit of telling fish stories. Edward Bloom's stories about fighting a real giant, joining a circus with a werewolf or a ringmaster, meeting a real witch, or kissing a mermaid all drove his son crazy because they were self-glorifying lies. It wasn't until his father was nearing the end of his life that they had a reconciliation, and Will realized the truth that the truth and the tale are intertwined and it doesn't matter. The message of love is what matters, and telling stories was the way that Edward showed his love for those around him. When his father passed away, all his old friends came to the funeral and paid their respects, including a 6.5-foot tall giant, his old ringmaster, and the witch with the glass eye. Will realizes that a man tells stories so many times that he becomes those stories. They live long after him, and in that way he becomes immortal. I don't know much about immortality, but I do know that while the people we meet and the situations we encounter don't last forever, their stories can go on from generation to generation, sometimes getting better with each telling. From the 2000 film Gladiator, we're reminded that what we do in life echoes in eternity. So may each of our stories continue to get better with each telling, and may our love for others guide our narratives. Our song for the month in January is Here We Have Gathered, which is number 360 in the Gray Hymnal. I invite you now to rise and body your spirit to sing.
Here we have gathered side by side, circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who seek here find a kindly word. May all who speak here feel they have been heard. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Here we have gathered all to celebrate days of our lifetime, whether small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, infants and sages, sharing what we can. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrows and regret, but in the shadows let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's pain. Kindness can heal us. As we give, we gain. Sing now in friendship this our heart's own song.
Good morning. I'm Becca Reynolds. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a redhead. Today I am wearing my extremely comfortable gray sweatpants, which are very warm, t-shirt, sweater. I wanted to be warm. I don't always do cold very well. I'm happy to share with you today the story for all ages. This month we are exploring the practice of story. And today we are diving into the theme of exploring how we as human beings are not just made of stories, but in fact, we are writing our own story with every choice and every decision we make. So, with that in mind, I want to share a wisdom tale called The Tale of Sankofa. Sankofa Bird, written by April Rosario. Once upon a time, in a vibrant village surrounded by lush green hills, there lived a wise bird known as the Sankofa. This beautiful bird had bright feathers that shimmered in the sunlight, and it had a special ability. It could fly forward while looking back at its past. The villagers admired the Sankofa and often sought its wisdom. One day, a child approached the bird to ask a question. You see, the child had been feeling confused about their future and who they were becoming and worried about the choices they would make. Excuse me, wise Sankofa bird, the child crawled out. How can I find my way when I'm unsure of what lies ahead? The Sankofa flew down from its nest and landed gracefully beside her, its eyes twinkling with kindness. My dear child, the bird said, don't you know we are the authors of our own stories? And to understand our future, we must first learn from our past. The journey of life is like flying. You can look ahead, but remember to glance back at where you've been. The child stared at the bird with a puzzled look. How can looking back help me? The Sankofa replied, think of your experiences. Each mistake and success has taught you something. By reflecting on them, you can make better choices. Just as I fly forward while looking back, you too can move ahead with the wisdom you've gained. Inspired, the child thought about their past and all that they had learned over the years. They remembered the time they were afraid to speak in front of the class, but later found joy in sharing stories and thought, maybe I'll be a writer. They recalled the time they had helped a family remember or have helped a family member when they were not feeling well and thought, maybe I'll be a doctor or a nurse. They recalled how fun it had been to help build the neighbor's fence and thought, maybe I'll be a carpenter. With each memory, they felt stronger and more confident about who they could be. Now, child, said the Sankofa, what do you want to achieve in the future? I want to be a storyteller, the child exclaimed. I want to share stories that inspire others. The Sankofa smiled. Then remember your past. Embrace your courage and creativity. Keep reflecting on your past, and it will guide you in your journey. With newfound determination, the child thanked the Sankofa bird and set off to share their stories with the world, often pausing to remember their past and letting it illuminate their path forward. This story is a wonderful reminder that we are the writers, authors of our own stories, and how to go about that. I personally love the idea that we need to look backward to best move forward. This is an especially great reminder this time of the year, with New Year's being on everyone's mind. People are thinking a lot about who they were and what they want in the next chapter of the year to be. And oftentimes, society says that each year starts with a blank slate, a la a brand new page. And this story and religions like ours tell us we need to know where we have been, to know where we want to go, and who we want to be. So in the week and days ahead, may all of us, kids and adults alike, think about how looking back will help us look forward to what needs to change, what needs to grow, and what needs to expand as we write this next chapter in the story of our lives.
Offering our gifts to support the work of building inclusive and just communities is one of the many ways that we live into justice and equity together. Some of us have much to give and some have little, and together it is enough. We are enough. To work together for a world where every human can live into their best and most authentic self. If electronic giving is your preferred method, or if you are on Zoom, virtual giving options are available on our website, springfielduu.org. The offertory is Both Sides Now by Johnny Mitchell, performed by Johnny Mitchell with Brandy Carlisle, recorded at the Newport Folk Festival in 2022. It is Johnny Mitchell's first performance in over 20 years.
Joni, will you sing us a couple more?
What's that?
Will you sing us a couple more, Joni?
Okay.
Okay.
I'll do this one.
All right.
Okay. Rose and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. And they rain and they snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions that I recall. I really don't know clouds. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel as every fairy tale comes real. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. You leave 'em laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let them know. No, don't give yourself away. Oh, I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions that I recall. I really don't know love. I really don't know love at all.
Really don't know love at all.
I don't know love at all.
Tears and fears and feeling proud.
To say I love you right out loud. circus crowds. I've looked at life that way. But now old friends are acting strange, and they shake their heads and they tell me that I've changed. Well, something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions I recall. I really don't know life. I really don't know life at all.
How does everybody feel about one more? Joni, will you?
Right. I've seen that video a whole bunch of times and I still cry every time I see it. I'm Reverend Michelle Scott Huffman. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the minister here at First UU. And I'm excited about talking about story this month. And I think a song is a story. And I think it's incredible to think about Joni Mitchell singing that song 55 years after she wrote it, and how the story meant something different when she was singing it that time, and probably at various points in between. So I will say before I share my message that I'm excited for the idea of story and other people sharing their stories. Thank you, Neil, for jumping in and being the first storyteller this month. For our remaining services in January, we'll need some other storytellers. And our final service this month is going to be a festival of stories. And so if you have a story to share, this is the time to get it out and dust it off and bring it to share with the community. Some of you may have heard this story that I'm about to tell, and if you have, I'm sorry. Hopefully a good story is good enough to hear more than one time. Picture this: Eden Seminary, West Hall, apartment 30 something. It's late, 10, maybe 11 o'clock. Our kids have just gone to bed. They finally stopped bickering at each other across the living room from their respective rooms. They might be asleep. Pete and Smokey, our 9-year-old rats, are scratching and chewing and doing whatever it is that they do to create a constant overnight soundtrack of scratch, scratch, squeak, squeak. My wife of a mere 6 months has just settled into our bed, and I'm close behind, but I can't shake what's on my mind, and I decide I have to say it out loud. Here goes. Hey, babe, I think we have to start a new church in Jefferson City. I have never seen my wife move so fast in all the time that I've known her. Now, for me, for just a millisecond, I felt relief having said it out loud, but it passed so quickly because she jumped up out of that bed and she said, "What the? What? No. What? I didn't think we were going back there. Really? Are you sure? Well, okay, I guess it makes sense. And I was like, wait, what? It makes sense. Just like that, you're okay with it? Clearly, God and the universe should have started this conversation with her and not me, because there might have been less wrestling, less fear, less, but what about? Needless to say, we did the thing, and it was glorious, but never glamorous. The best way I can think of to explain to you just how not glamorous it was is to share with you the story that I call Super Dyke and Wonder Dog, which started out as a Facebook post and took on a life of its own, threatening someday to become a full memoir, except that the Wonder Dog died and those stories stopped. So it all started when we had been back in Jeff City for several months after our second year at Eton, when we lived in the chopped up apartment in West Hall. I have no memory of how I learned of it, but a person from my tiny hometown who had gone to school with my older siblings owned a church building in Jefferson City, as you do, I guess, with an attached apartment, and was looking to rent or sell it. We went to look at it and fell in love. It was a 1940s concrete block building, white, a monstrosity really, white with red doors and a bell tower. It had the most hideous red carpet that screamed power in the blood, and pews with gold upholstery that smelled like Father Abraham and his many sons. There were rickety stairs that led you down to the musty basement fellowship hall where we shared dinner every Saturday night after worship. Our family lived in the apartment because we couldn't pay the rent on the church and still make our house payment. And we didn't know how long it would be before others caught this vision and could support the church financially. So we found renters to live in our house. And it was convenient after all, especially since there was no kitchen in the church part of the building, and we'd be cooking for Saturday's meal while also preparing for worship. It was convenient for Leo, the Wonder Dog, too, because he liked to run out the apartment door and up the stairs into the sanctuary to play with our girls, who taught him, rather sacrilegiously, I suppose, to leap over every pew from the back of the sanctuary to the front. And they were all very proud. As for me, I was proud too. Proud of the community that we began to gather, who were so excited to be seen and known and loved and accepted, and so excited to inhabit this churchy building when so many of them had been run out of churches for so many reasons. This was a labor of love. And because I so loved the vision of what we knew this community could become, I was willing to do lots of other labor out in the world to put food on the table while I served this church and these beautiful people who would never be able to pay me. My main paying job in those days was working for an insurance services company where I would drive sometimes 500 miles a day, get out of my car at 10 or 12 homes, take measurements and photos, record any visible hazards, and then jump back in my car and head to the next house on the list. My work attire consisted of Levi's jeans, a button-up shirt or polo, depending on the weather, and brown work boots. When I came home, it was often hot in our apartment, so I'd shed my button-up or polo shirt, revealing my plain white t-shirt with cut-off sleeves so they don't get bunched up in the sleeves of your real shirt. This after work, not going anywhere, nobody's gonna see me get up, is how I spent hours upon hours after my 500-mile days, writing up reports on the houses I had surveyed that day and making notes here and there for this coming Saturday's sermon. It was, in fact, the most stereotypically lesbian outfit you could possibly imagine. Hence the title, Super Dyke. Sorry if that's offensive to you, I just embrace it. And it's what I'm wearing the evening that I was afraid I was going to have to meet the neighbors for the first time in their backyards. Here's how it went down. I'm doing laundry, listening to storytelling preacher Fred Craddock tell me how to be a better preacher, and working on survey reports when I hear water running where it shouldn't be. The basement is flooding. It's from the washer. because we live in a place where the water all drains into pipes that are below any water or sewer main lines, and it has to go through this lift station to get up to street level and to leave the space. And sometimes if you don't kick the lift station in the appropriate place at least once a day, it stops lifting as it should. The water backs up and it pours out. So I hear water pouring out onto the basement floor and I think, oh my, the basement is flooding. I have to stop it before the chickens drown. Of course we have chickens in our basement. You don't? So I run carefully down these rather precarious basement steps to see the soapy washing machine water flowing across the floor. I immediately open the door to the clean out so the water can start running outside instead of onto the floor. And I got there just in time for the last 9 drops of water to go outside. It was done. I looked down beside me at Leo. Leo! He's sitting outside, unattached to any sort of tethering device, and he's a flight risk. I look at him, he looks at me, I think, maybe he doesn't know. And he thinks, maybe she doesn't know. And I reach down ever so swiftly to grab his collar, and he's gone. Lovely. So here I am, clad in faded jeans, brown work boots, and a white Fruit of the Loom t-shirt with the sleeves cut off, running through my neighbors, most of whom I've never met, backyards, saying, Leo, you want a yummy? And my neighbors are probably looking out their windows going, honey, come look at this. It's Super Dyke chasing Wonder Dog. The yummy thing doesn't work because it only works when he intentionally ignores you so that you will offer him a yummy. So I walk along about 20 feet behind him. Finally, I get his attention and I begin running up the street. The neighbors are now standing at their front windows going, now Wonder Dog is chasing Super Dyke. We get to the house next to ours and these little yappy dogs in the yard are going crazy. And he stops to check them out and he looks at me like, Mom, I'm scared of those little things. And I grab him. And I leash him up and I bring him back to the house. I sweep out the basement because our below street level basement has no floor drains. And I get Leo all wet with washing machine water. Sweeping, 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 sweating, come upstairs and sit down in the chair next to the drink that I was previously enjoying, which is now warm. And there I sat, wet dog in my lap, thinking, dear God, ministry is weird. You can't make this stuff up. And I'm here for it. So here's the thing about that story. Its first ending was, how long do you think it will be before it happens again? Rather than ministry is weird and I'm here for it. I don't know how long it took me to move from Jesus, not a prayer, but an expletive. This is ridiculous. What are we doing in this stupid old smelly building that can't even get plumbing right? And wouldn't life be easier if I would just go out and get one of the many jobs that I'm surely qualified to do? What a gift it is to live in this wonderfully weird life with all the beautiful people who have come to find love, acceptance, and grace in this hot mess of a space, who will go on to live fully authentic, empowered lives, doing the work that they found was theirs to do in a world that they thought couldn't contain their presence. This is the work of restorying. And in many cases, all we need is time, as Neil alluded to, for the story to rewrite itself with the ways that challenges turned into gifts. Other times we need to do work in the here and now to reframe the story ourselves so that we don't turn it into a negative, self-fulfilling prophecy. Obviously, some of our stories are much more painful than the one I told. And that's not an easy thing to do. And yet, when we look back at the most difficult and painful stories in our lives, we can almost find something we learned from it, some way that we grew, something that was ours to do as a result of it. Joy Harjo, the 23rd Poet Laureate, has said, at some point we have to understand that we don't need to carry a story that is unbearable. We can observe the story, which is mental, feel the story, which is physical, let the story go, which is emotional, and then forgive the story, which is spiritual. After which we use the materials of it to build a house of knowledge. And Ozan Varol writes, we all have stories we live by that aren't fixed truths. They're just old scripts we've been following without realizing it. If you tell yourself travel is exhausting, you'll only notice the hassles, the delayed flights, the cramped seats, and miss the little joys along the way. If you tell yourself you're awkward in social settings, you'll tense up before conversations even begin, missing moments that could have been easy and fun. The point isn't to force yourself to love every rainy day or magically turn into an extrovert. It's about creating space. Space to question the stories you've been living by and experiment with something new. You're not committing to anything forever. You're just saying, what if? So let's tell our stories this month. Let's think about how they've shaped our lives and ask ourselves which ones need restoried. Let's enter into the age-old practice of storytelling as a way to build community, to support one another. And let's have some fun continuing to ask, what if? May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Our interlude today is Air from Suite Number 3 by J.S. Bach, performed by Eva.
Hello, I hope you can hear me. My name is Colin. I'm a member of the Pastoral Care Circle. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a balding guy in my 30s wearing a blue t-shirt this morning. As a community, we share joys and concerns to keep connected. Slips of paper are available at the greeters table for those in the sanctuary to use for joys and concerns. During the week, you may send your joys and concerns by email to pastoralcare@springfielduu.org or by leaving a voicemail on the church phone 417-883-3922. If you're on Zoom like me, please use the chat box now for sharing your joys and concerns. All of these joys and concerns will be included on the members' email on Tuesday. We honor each joy or concern with a lighted candle, a symbol of the love we as a community offer for each of these joys and concerns. This morning, I believe Lynn will be lighting the candles for us. We humans are wired to listen to, tell, and respond to stories. Once upon a time are among the most powerful words in any language. In this first month of a new year, imagine that in place of a resolution, you create a story of yourself about you succeeding in the change you have selected. Storytelling, writes Adrienne Marie Brown, is a way to give someone, including ourselves, an experience they haven't yet had, or maybe didn't even know was possible. And now, as we begin this time of sharing, know that though we are in multiple physical spaces, we are together in beloved community. To begin, we hold in love, all of us, those present and those absent. We light a candle for our church community. A joy from Reverend Michelle. Big thanks to Era, Becky, and Mac for sorting and packaging all of our holiday donations, our holiday donation collection for the Crisis Cold Weather Shelter. We light a candle of joy. A concern from Holly. EW spent some time in the hospital for an infection. He still isn't doing well. Radiation doesn't begin until the 13th. Please remember him in your thoughts. We light a candle of concern. From Leah, a concern: my insurance denied coverage for my eating disorder treatment, so I have to leave residential care, even though my treatment team thinks it is needed. I'm still in treatment at a lower level of care, though. We light a candle of concern. We honor the complex and heartbreaking struggles of our world. We light a candle for all who are impacted. And in closing, for those joys and concerns that remain unspoken, we light a candle. May we hold each of these in our hearts and minds. May our community of love ease sorrow and boost celebration. While we are in multiple physical spaces, we still share space together here in intentional community. And now let us join together in 1 minute of shared silence, followed by Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our closing words are to speak, listen to, and care for our stories by Reverend Sherry Woodbury. May we have the courage to speak or write the stories within us that need to be told, the stories that make up our lives. May we listen with a loving mind and heart to the stories of others' lives, others here in this church and others in our wider community and the world. Let us choose with care the stories that we teach our children, remembering that all of our stories have power and that all of our stories are connected, for all life is one. In the name of all that is sacred in these gathered hearts, may it be so. Amen. The final hymn is This Little Light of Mine, which is number 118 in the Great Hymnal. You're welcome to stand if you'd like.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Clap if you want. I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. 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 Good job.
We will now extinguish our communal and personal chalices, and we will close with our unison sending words. Our service here is ending. Our service to the world begins anew.